Our cruise down the Inside Passage in southeast Alaska continues, and last week we anchored in Red Bluff Bay surrounded by waterfalls. Malin made a vongole with the blue mussels we had found, and we got to experience another bubble net feeding with humpbacks.
Pretty fast right now. $11.6.
Now? Yeah, quite a lot of current.
This is a lot of current.
No, it's okay.
The current here runs up to 6 knots, and accidents can easily happen if you're not used to this or have planned wrong. An orca breached in front of us, leaving the water completely, and we both dropped our jaws.
Fishing is still the biggest industry in this old Norwegian settlement, and Petersburg's harbor is home to many boats. Just by looking at many of the boat names, you can tell the Scandinavian influence.
Think it's done with the bad weather?
Yeah, I think so for now. It's better to keep it down below.
Was founded around a cannery from the beginning. It was a Norwegian guy called Peter Bushman. He came here in the 1890s, 1895 if I remember correctly, and he started a cannery and a sawmill. And the whole town kind of grew from that. A lot of Scandinavians coming here, a lot of Norwegians and Swedes, I guess, and they seem to be really proud of their heritage here. So the reason they picked this spot to start these fishing processing plants in the cannery back in the 1890s was because of the glacier that is pretty close by, so they can use the ice from the glacier to cool the fish. And yeah, some of these companies are still here 125 years later.
The typical traditional rose paintings can be found throughout the town. Scandinavia. The Norway Hall became a meeting place for Norwegians, keeping their cultural traditions alive and also helping individuals in need. Today the organization has over 330 members.
So I guess most people here in Petersburg are descendants of Scandinavians or people from Norway. And yeah, people here seems to be really proud of their Norwegian heritage. Yeah, they call it Little Norway. So there's even a replica of a Viking ship, Valhalla. I don't know if it's correct design, but it's a Viking ship. Yeah, Petersburg is a nice little town. It has a big marina. There's actually 3 marinas. We're in the north one.
Ja, vi har det gott i Amerika. Ja då. Nu ska jag börja snacka norsk. Nu då. För vi är i Petersburg. En gammal norsk liten by.
You sound so positive when you speak Norwegian.
But that's how Norwegian sounds. They have a very melodic language.
Yeah, positive tone.
Mm-hmm. It's a really long way to come from Norway and to settle down here in middle of Alaska, in southeast Alaska, which is pretty cool. I wonder what took them all the way here from Norway, because it's really on the opposite side of where all the Scandinavians arrived in North America. Because they arrived all on the east coast around, most of them in New York.
Yeah, Ellis Island, I guess. This is my future boat, Christine. I don't know what they used it for, if it's like a net layer or something they have used in the harbor here to, I don't know, like a tug or something like that.
After studying the tides and calculating the right time to leave, we left Petersburg 1 hour before high tide to go through Wrangell Narrows. Navigating. When we left Petersburg, we had about 3 knots of current with us. Now it's starting to drop, and we left an hour before high tide in Petersburg. And about halfway in on the channel, the two tides meet, so the tide will start running on the other way when we come further. Yeah, halfway and continuing south. And now we have a spring tide. So you really have to check the currents and the tides and plan your departure and when you're leaving. But it's going well so far. It's here the channel is not that narrow, but it gets more narrow as we come further south. So there's some, you have to be concentrated on the navigation, and there can be some meeting boats maybe. And there's also over 60 navigational aids on this channel, and that's different buoys and marks and signs that you have to pay attention to. So I guess the worst thing you can have here is fog. And so yeah, that cannot be that fun to have fog when it's so narrow. You have a lot of current and meeting boats. But today the weather is nice. Yeah, so we've timed it well.
So what you need to think about in this channel is that, of course, the channel fills up from two directions when it's flooding, and the same when it's ebb. So what we're trying to do now is to reach this middle point. So we will have first the current with us to this middle point, and so we will be at the middle point at exactly when the tide turns over there. So we will continue to have the current with us on the other side. So if we have planned this correctly, we will have the current with us all the way from Petersburg all the way through for 21 nautical miles. So it will be interesting to see if we have planned it correctly. Like Malin said, we left 1 hour before high tide in Petersburg, and that should make it correct, but we'll see. Halfway now, and so far our calculations are correct. So hopefully the current will turn, because now it's like no current at all. It's starting to stop, but it should pick up again in a mile or so from here. The current here can run up to 7 knots, so you really need to make sure you time it correctly here, especially now when it's a springtide. We have about 40 nautical miles to go today, so quite a lot since we left 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think we'll be at Anchorage around 9 this evening. And actually it's a big difference. I mean, it's mid-August now, and it's a huge difference when the sunset is compared to when we arrived in Kodiak. So we have to start to think about that too now, the sunset. So we're at the turning point. All right.
Not yet. Maybe another mile or so. But yeah, we're closing into the turning point. And I'd say now we have like a half of a knot of current with us. So I hope that will continue now as we continue south. It's getting more narrow now.
Just gonna let him pass first. It's pretty narrow over here.
Instead of container ships, most transports up here goes on barges with tugboats. When it gets narrow, the tugboat shortens the slack to have more control over the barge.
it seems like our calculations were correct. We had slack a little while ago, and now we have the current with us again. So now we're on the southern part of the channel, so the water that's flowing to the south. So we have the current with us of about 2 knots.
Lite problem med motorn.
I think he has some engine problems.
Yeah, it looks like.
Smells pretty bad. We made it through Wrangell Narrows. It was fun. I love going in these narrow channels because it comes so close to the nature and there's so much to look at, and yeah, it's fun. But there wasn't any problem at all. It was really straightforward, easy, and all these navigational aids help you because they show you the way to go.
On a current, huh?
Wow, yeah. We're not going that fast. Maybe it's some counter current.
Yeah.
Woo! Oh, it's scary. Rakt in i den här. There's a lot of current here. I think they get stuck in the current that goes like this. It just stays in this area. Do you feel the current?
Yeah.
A few more hours and we arrived in Exchange Cove just before sunset.
Thank you for watching. Join us on Facebook and Instagram for updates on our whereabouts and coming meetups. Please give a thumbs up, we'd really appreciate that. See you next week.